shared it to my page as well.
Okay. All right. All right. This is the Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. As always, in the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he's the exalted, all-powerful, all-wise. We confide in no other in our time of need, and we praise no other in our good fortune. He is one. And even if I lived to be 1,000, it would still not be enough to thank God for his many blessings and gifts. We thank God for the Metu Neter, oracle scriptures and writings that came on the continent of Africa thousands of years before any organized religion. We thank God for Moses in the Torah, Jesus in the Gospel, and Muhammad with the Quran. I greet everyone in words of peace. To my Christian family, praise the Lord. To my Muslim family, assalamu alaikum. To my Hebrew Israelite family, shalom. To my Black Conscious family, hotep. And to my people in the streets, what's good to you? It all means peace. So once again, this is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. For those of our viewers who are tuning in via Facebook, if you can do me a favor and hit the share button and then hit watch party. Hit the share button, then hit watch party. What that does is bring more viewers into the message. Share button, watch party for those who are watching via Facebook and those who are watching on channel 16 local access TV. Let your friends and family know about the Hour of Power that comes on every Wednesday at 8 p.m. streaming live on Facebook and of course on channel 16 local access TV. This Saturday we'll be having a beautiful program at 459 West King Street Championship Community Center. It's the Harambe reading program, which was formerly labeled the Black Collective Reading Program, but the members saw fit to name it the Harambe Reading Program, and Harambe means pulling together. You may have seen some of our little ritual that we do there, which is not religious, where we all link up together and we say Harambe 7 times, which again means pulling together, and it's an affirmation of togetherness and bringing us together. You may have seen it on Facebook. That is age old from Africa, and I just thank those at the community center for naming it that, and we're going to continue to work together to bring about change in our community. If there's any other programs going on in the community that you want us to announce, stream it on this feed here, and I'll be glad to announce it. I know it's plenty positive things going on. The movement, they have things going on. I believe they're doing a no bullying program at a church. I forgot to bring it with me. I apologize for that. But if any of their members are watching, please send in a message so I can give the time and location. But that's very much needed. And the call-in number tonight is 717-846-5067. Tonight is open lines. We don't really have a particular topic. My wonderful young brother here helped me out and came in. I'm going to have him introduce himself. But tonight is open lines. When I say open lines, anything going on in our community, anything going on nationwide, worldwide that concerns you, that you want to talk about, even if it's sports, let's talk about it. It's open lines. If you've seen or heard any of my past interviews, seen any of my podcasts throughout the week that I do from my home, and you had some questions, or even if you disagree, I don't debate, but even if you disagree, because disagreement brings about education if it's done in a healthy way. So if anything you've seen, messages that I've done, and you want to question it or need more clarification, whatever. But whatever is going on in the community, world, nationwide, and here. It's open line, so please call in, and the number again is 717-846-5067. I think I see Sister Tanya came on. Sister Tanya, if you're watching, can you send in the information for your no bullying campaign that you have coming up? I don't have the information in front of me. If you could please send that in, because we want our people to know about it. So my special guest tonight with our open lines is my good brother, Montez Parker. Can you introduce yourself, brother?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I am Montez Parker. Grown up here in York City. Went to William Penn, graduated class of 2011. Went straight into the Air Force as a military police officer. I had to take what they gave me, but I learned a lot doing that. Spent about 3 years in Japan. Spent some time in the Middle East. Qatar, Iraq. I did a tour in Iraq. Slight, not a whole tour. Came home. Well, I finished out my Air Force career in South Carolina, Charleston. About a couple months after the mass shooting that happened there, actually. So one of the first things I did when I got there is, of course, I went to a service, and I learned a little bit about the whole incident and the history of that church. I mean, it's an African American Methodist church. Amazing. It's that church is really a cornerstone in Charleston, and it was for a long time. So then I got out November 2018, 17. That November, and in January I heard that there was a vacancy for city council. I was always a York City resident, did things like that. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna throw my hat in there, and it was fun. Got to the public interviews. We interviewed with Lou Rivera. He's now running. He's actually running a race. Edwina, she's running for re-election too. I just, got to see some greats. I got to really be beside some greats and interview and see what they did well. Right. After that, I went to Salem Square Community Association. I was a director over there for their Elm Street program that they're still running. It was immaculate. Dominique Chapman is doing an amazing job. You got Ben Jackson, and I know they expanded their board. And I'll stop right there for 2 seconds. One thing that I really noticed is how hard there's a lot of barriers when it comes to economic development, especially coming from the city. There are a lot of barriers. There were a lot there, and they're doing a great job at pushing that ball forward. It's definitely an uphill battle, and now I work for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of General Services, specifically diversity, inclusion, and small business opportunities, and I'm learning a lot there as well.
Wow, that's a lot, brother. You've accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. And again, for those who are tuning in Facebook, if you can hit the share button and hit watch party so we can bring more viewers in. Please hit the share button and watch party if you already haven't. And if you have, thank you for that. I wanted to back up to the beginning because that's a lot that you said about how you was based in South Carolina.
Yes.
And you visited the church. That's our Mother of Emmanuel Church.
Yes.
Right. Well, this past August, me and my family, my wife was there, and I have a sister who used to live in South Carolina, and she gave me a call. My sister Melody, big shout out to her. She lives in Atlanta now, but she used to live in South Carolina, and she gave me a call and said, "Where are you at?" I said, "Well, I just arrived in South Carolina. I'm at a hotel, and I'm about to, do some sightseeing." She said, "What hotel are you at?" I said, "Some hotel. I think it's the Marriott on Calhoun Street."
Okay.
She said, "Well, you're right across the street from the church where that." I looked across the street. I didn't even know that was the church where that happened.
That was the church,
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a hotel right across the street.
Right across the street.
I was staying there, didn't even know that was a church. So I immediately went out. I went Facebook Live, and the historian of the church came out and he gave me like a tour.
Oh, that's
man,
good.
it was deep. I mean, Denmark VC
Yeah.
has roots there.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King spoke there.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it can hold up to 1,100 people.
It's a beautiful church, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, when you walk in, it's kind of eerie because they made the little memorial for the shooting victims, and they have their name on the placard
Yes,
there.
they do.
They have that waterfall
Yes.
there. I mean, I have it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
When I
was walking by, I mean, it was kind of eerie, but it's kind of hard. You have to be there to get that
feeling.
Yes.
When I went there was still candles outside. You know, they still had at the time they had the Black Lives Matter posters and things like that. The second or third time I went to visit it, they took everything down.
Excuse me, brother. So we don't lose people. We're talking about the shooting with I don't even want to say his name. The person that shot the 9 members.
Yes.
Because we're not going to give him that kind of power. It's not even in Charleston, South Carolina. The 9 innocent church members that were there and was ambushed by this whatever he is, and so that's what we're talking about. But continue on, brother.
So so when I got there, that happened. So I was in Japan. You know, you're hearing a lot of negative things about Charleston, but it's a beautiful city.
Yes.
Very historic. It's a beautiful city. Another thing I did when I went there is I went to the slave plantations as well. I wanted to see that. And actually, I'll say something really quick.
Sure.
It reminds me, I know now we're doing the History Center. They're building the History Center. And I spoke with a couple of people about that. So when I went to the plantations to see everything, I mean, they still have the homes and everything. It was interesting. It was empowering. But one part that, that always bothers you is we always get kind of cut short. They kind of try to blanket some of the things that were done. So you had people from all over the world coming to see these plantation homes, and they'll get there and they will call what were slaves employees, and stuff like that. And then you had, historians from Europe here to forth that were going back angry, like, all right, okay,
You call them employees.
Employees, yeah. I can't think of which one it is, but they called them employees. They wanted to lessen that blow of what really happened, but of course we know what happened. So with the History Center here, and they're in development, and you just really have to embrace history for what it is. Because if you want to be a true tourist attraction, and bring a scholar in, a historian, or people that want to know when they get here, and they're like, okay, well, there's parts missing. That's really going to deter people from coming back and forth. So I seen that happen myself in Charleston. So.
And again, don't be shy, family. Again, this is open lines. This young brother is just flowing with it, but really it's open lines. We don't really have a particular topic. We just want to talk about some things locally here, nationwide, whatever you want to discuss. If you have any questions, comments about the show, past podcasts I've done, anything on your mind, long as it's decent, call in 717-846-5067. We have a young a future leader, present leader here.
Thank you.
You have any questions or comments or encouraging words, this is what it's about. Please call in 717-846-5067. Now, you said that we have a history center in the making here. Can you give us a little information about that, where it's located and what's the direction of it, as much as you know?
That I don't know too much. I know they're going to start. I think they're going to start to kind of come out. I know there is a history center now. I don't know the exact address, but it's down the street from the Memorial Library.
Okay.
It's open.
Going in town or
going out
east?
of town, going east,
Okay.
going east. There's a wealth of knowledge in there. I'll say that. You can get a lot. You can get a lot in there. And if you,
now, is it just Black history or is it York history?
It's York history. It's York history.
Oh, okay.
It's York history. I would definitely say there could be some more Black history in there. I think York embraces the Civil War, but I think we don't embrace the civil rights enough. I don't think we expound on that enough, the Great Migration and things of that nature. I can definitely say Mr. Jeff Kirkland does.
Yeah, we had him on last week. He's a local, historian. He was on last week. I had him on. I believe he's the only guest I've had other than Dr. Bernal, who's been on twice. And,
Okay.
So he was dropping knowledge about, our rich history and contributions here in York, PA. He has a book, and hopefully we can collaborate with him and others so he can continue to share, the rich history, here in York. I mean, he was even talking about a baptism that was here years ago. It was 4,000 people there. I keep talking about it. That just blows my mind.
Wow, that's crazy.
Actually had two of them. One was 3,000, the other one was 4,000 at Cador's Creek.
Wow.
It used to be a church, one of the first AME churches, I think, right across the street from York High on the Persian Street side. That used to be a church there, one of the AME churches there. I mean, he was breaking it down. So we really need, that's the kind of history that, I can't tell them what, to do there, but it's our history. It needs to be told. So
yes, it does. There's one thing very interesting about history that I'm learning now. So, I have a lot of mentors, very diverse, I don't try to stick to one demographic when it comes to learning, because that will marginalize you as a public servant, So, I had a mentor tell me, America's going through Reconstruction. We're in a Reconstruction phase. And I didn't even realize that we were in Reconstruction, but we are. If you think about it, the policy reformation, the fact that we have to reconstruct infrastructure. I mean, anything you think right now has to be rebuilt. Laws, of course, the prison system, real things. So I started to study Reconstruction, and I came across Black Reconstruction. And I was like, man, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there were the W.B. Du Bois, a lot of scholars then, but they were marginalized. And if you look at the climate now, it's kind of the same thing. It seems like there's a fight to marginalize Black and brown people or people that are in poverty altogether. So,
all right. So, we look forward to seeing how that, plays out with the History Center there. But as always, if we want our true, authentic, and full history told, we have to tell it. Especially for our youth. We don't want another generation, going forward being in the dark. We just cannot afford that. I know how it was when I was coming up, and just, way before the internet. Just going through school and just not knowing certain things. And when I found out, it was like conflicting feelings, so to speak, because I was happy, like, man, I didn't know we built the pyramids. I didn't know we invented this, invented that. But then it was a sense of anger, too, like, why didn't no one tell me these things? So it is absolutely no excuse with all the technology that we have, that our youth go through another generation of not knowing, and a lot of them still with all this information, a lot of them still don't know. How do you think that's possible? I mean, you can get on, you don't even need a computer these days. You can get on, because phones are like a computer. You can just hit something in and pages of stuff. How do you think with all this technology and all this easy access to information that our youth still seem to be in the dark about their history? How do you think that's possible?
That's a very good question. 2 years ago, I actually just shared it yesterday. I was like, man, I flew out to Los Angeles to go to Dr. Boyce Watkins. Wow. I went to his first 48-hour business school. And it was amazing. He has a brother, Lawrence Watkins, too. And he said one thing, right now, focus in a young person is probably the greatest asset that they could have. He said it's almost a commodity. So we're really not focused because, of course, we have a plethora, a wealth of knowledge on the phone, but you also have, it's overflow at the same time. So that's one thing that we have to realize. And then learning the value of our history is something else. Do we see it as valuable? And when are we learning it too? And one thing that happens a lot of times is you start to learn true history when you exit high school, or when you're in, 11th, 12th grade. You might hear a little bit of it, and it really shatters your reality almost. It really, I can say that happened to me, at least, because I didn't really start to avidly read until I learned my history as a black man, and the intelligence that came from Africa. And then, I mean, I was reading nonstop,
It's
power.
like a drug, yeah.
Oh, it was. And I actually had to, you got to learn to balance yourself.
Right.
But I just don't think that's a tough question to answer. But I don't think that value is really instilled that, of black history, so. Yeah.
I'm glad we're, continuing the conversation, because that's what the talk was last week with Mr. Kirkland. We called it Black History 365. We can't let it die after February, which is the shortest month, of the year. It seems like that's what happens. Everyone gets a little charge, in February, people posting things, posting facts, which are good. But then after that, sometimes it kind of dies off. So here we are, 2-3 weeks, actually 3 weeks, because today's the 20th after Black History. And I'm still, at least on this platform, we're still pushing it. I'm glad you're, coming on and, filling us in, about, your experience when you're a pretty young man. So
yes,
when
sir.
You were in school,
26.
Yes. When you were in school, was Black History taught? And if so, what was taught?
Mr. Sexton, you had Mr. Sexton, the late,
rest in peace,
rest in peace, the late, great Mr. Sexton. He was a great mentor. You had Mr. Wade.
Had him on a couple weeks ago.
Great. Two good mentors. They taught us a lot of Black history. Then, of course, you learn, small smidgets of Black history. You learn about Martin Luther King. But one thing that, a lot of people think is his last speech was the I Have a Dream speech. That was his last speech. And it really wasn't. And he really morphed into kind of to have more of a posture. It was more focused on economics, bringing economics in. So he shifted his dream. I learned a little bit of African American history. You learn a little bit, but you don't learn too much, or the things that are very important to shape your mind to be able to appreciate. I'll tell you one thing that what I learned, which I actually learned just self-educating, a book called Powernomics by Dr. Claude L. Anderson.
Very powerful, brother.
I learned the Homestead Act, which was one of the biggest pieces of legislation in, American history, where about 270 million acres was given, a lot of it was given to Irish immigrants, European immigrants, and stuff like that. However, it happened at the same time. I want to say that happened, I don't want to quote the year, but it happened about a year or two prior to the Emancipation Proclamation, I believe. And the funny thing is, it's not funny, but that could have been the 40 acres and a mule that, most free slaves didn't get. So a lot of times you still hear till today, why is it that, African Americans or blacks never capitalized on the economy when they were given this, that, or the fourth? We were never given 10%, of America, 10% of the land, to say, here, go ahead and do this. So those are the truths.
Right. So you're saying that with your experience there in school, that Black history somewhat was kind of shallow, and you had to go and do your own study afterwards. I'm talking about structure now. When our brother Claire Sexton, when he came in, and Mr. Wade, that wasn't part of the structure. Were they guests that came in, or was that part of the structured class?
It wasn't part of the structured class.
So if they wouldn't have donated their time, you wouldn't even have got the knowledge and jewels that they had.
That is very true. Mr. Wade and Mr. Sexton, for a period of time, I wouldn't say it was a short period of time, it wasn't, but they did have kind of like an after-school program for us, and it might have been some in school as well. They would take us to different colleges, teach us things, but they were really teaching us. And don't get me wrong, I had a father and mother in my home, so when I acted out, that was by choice. But they were really teaching us the basics, posture, poise, how to respect yourself, things like that.
Oh, okay.
And Black history as well.
Well, hopefully, we'll get to a point where it's a part of the curriculum. And I know Mr. Wade, he has his Keystones project that he's working on. Again, he was on the show a couple weeks ago, so you can go back on my YouTube channel and look that up. I know he's pushing. He already has a curriculum to offer. It's just a matter of them wanting to invest in it to put in Pennsylvania schools.
That's wonderful.
I don't know about other states, but nationwide, and it isn't just for us. It could educate other ethnic groups. When people say Black history, they thinking it's just for us. So, I mean, of course, we're the main ones because of the contributions we made, but it could be beneficial to others and maybe knock down the stereotypes that they have of us, that we're just athletes and we came here as slaves and all that. I mean, that stuff needs to be, and it shouldn't just be called Black history. It should be called African history. That part is often left out. As if we just picked up here with Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, and Rosa Parks and all that. We have probably millions of years of history from Africa way before that. Hopefully, we'll get to that point. But again, the real training ground is at home.
Yes.
Is at home. Do you think, I mean, we're not in people's homes. Do you think that Black history is being taught at home? Now, we're leaving the school system out of it. Do you think it's being taught at home?
I can say my mother and father taught me Black history. Even down to music. My dad would even break down Public Enemy lines to me. There were some real good lines in there.
Oh yeah.
Nas, KRS One. That's just hip hop. But he broke down a lot to me. But when you go into each and every home, of course, like you said, we're not in homes, but it's not. It's probably not taught as detailed as it needs to be, and not to every Black or brown person. And I like how you said, that not just African American history, but African history as well. And you're going to get people that say, well, why are you just focusing on Black history? Why are you just talking about African American history? When the honest fact is, we've been here for over 500 years and we're still trying to be included in history, when we made amazing contributions. So
right. So what do you think about and again, the call-in number, y'all being kind of shy out there. Come on now. We have our future and present leader here, and he's giving us a lot of jewels. 717-846-5067. This platform is for you, and again, it's open lines. We're rolling deep on the Black history, but really, it's open lines to discuss and ask any questions and give any encouraging words that you want. 717-846-5067 if you want to call in. Switching gears a little bit, we started out talking about the tragedy there in South Carolina. What do you think about what happened in New Zealand last week? Did you see about that, about the terror attacks in New Zealand at 2 mosques? I was actually supposed to have an imam on tonight, but he couldn't make it. He wanted to speak on that from an Islamic point of view. But I mean, Muslims were the target of that. But again, they're humans.
Yes. First. Yes.
So, what's your take on what happened there and just terrorism in general? In general,
of course, there's no place for terrorism, and that was a horrible act. And condolences and prayers and thoughts go out to each and every person that was affected by it. But I just can't wrap my head around those type of acts. I really can't wrap my head around murder in general, but definitely in a place of worship. It's a lot there. And another thing is, Islam means peace, right? It means peace. So I really like how you said that. Yes, was at a mosque. Yes, they were Muslim, but they're humans first, as well, and peaceful humans that went to exercise their right to religion, and they were murdered, which is, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
rest in peace
Right.
to all of them. My condolences, thoughts, and prayers.
So it was a terror attack there
Mhm.
at two mosques last Friday during Jumu'ah prayer.
Mhm.
Jumu'ah is an Arabic word for Friday prayer. It's equivalent to Christians going to church on Sunday. Our day of worship is on Friday, which we call Jumu'ah prayer. And this man named, I think his name was Brandon Tarrant or something like that, 28-year-old. And he had actually planned this in advance. So the officials there in New Zealand, at least 2 years in advance, had tips that this was going to go down. And he actually had plans on making a third attack if they wouldn't have stopped him there.
Wow.
Wow. And I believe anywhere between 49 and 55 people were killed. They had their janazah, some of their janazah prayer today. Janazah is the Arabic word for funeral prayer. A lot of the Muslims there are very upset, of course, because of the trauma of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But the tradition, so to speak, is being broken because of them identifying the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, we put our dead to rest within 3 days after you're deceased.
Mm-hmm.
We don't wait like a week or not like that. We don't embalm the body. That's Islamic tradition. So a lot of the people there are upset because the tradition is being broken, but they have to identify the bodies. They're saying it's a slow process. So just seeing that is very painful to see, just for me. Again, them being Muslim, but them being human.
Humans. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, this is, and the sad thing and scary thing is it's some nut out there waiting to be a copycat from either side, either someone who's claiming that they're Muslim
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to do that, or now the other side, which, you know, I don't believe they should be putting these labels on. Terrorism is terrorism. That really irks me when they say an Islamic terrorist. Those two words don't even go together.
Yeah.
Because Islam means peace. So how can you be a peaceful terrorist?
There you go.
Because very rarely, because I haven't heard them say this person was a Christian terrorist. Even though, if you would ask him, I imagine his background or religious background is probably Christian or whatever it is. I very rarely hear them put that label behind someone else except Muslim, an Islamic terrorist. Well, how can you be a peaceful terrorist? So it's a lot of education that needs, you know, to be given, you know, throughout this country. I hope the imams around the country are doing what they can to educate the people about the religion of Islam, what it means. And just because you call yourself something, that don't mean that's what you are.
There
It's
we
your
go.
actions that really exemplify who you are. People can say they whatever, but are you really living it? I did a talk on my podcast about the difference between spirituality and religion. You know, what's the difference? What would be your if someone was to ask you, what would you say is the difference between those two words? I hope that ain't too heavy.
No. That's a good one. I like that. I like that. The difference between spirituality and religion. Religion is tradition. You know, it's practices. It's something that, you know, you're following steps. You're following steps. I would say spirituality is more of a having a relationship, an intimate relationship with God, and knowing yourself too. You know, that's when you lean more into spirituality, being conscious of things. You know, understanding
living it every day. Everything you do, everything you say, that's spirituality.
Yeah.
I believe the two can be blended together if someone, like you said, has that God consciousness. So
There
to
you
speak.
go.
You can blend the two together, but you can also send them opposite ways, because you have people say, "Oh, I'm Muslim, or I'm Christian, or I'm this and that," but then you see, you know, their actions. You be like, man, and I think it's actually running people away from religion.
Yeah.
Because they see people, you know, go in these buildings and have these names and titles, but then they don't see the action behind it. Some not all the time, but enough to make you kind of scratch your head, sometimes. So that just the way you explained it, that was my understanding of it. A tradition, of doing things, but then having that real connection with God and then living it out and everything you do and say. That's that's spirituality. That's the way I explained it. So I'm glad that you kind of have a similar understanding. Bringing it kind of close here to York. What do you think we can do about the violence that's going on here in York, and where do you think it's coming from? I know that's a kind of a broad question. We unfortunately had unfortunate murder here in York next to a church. We just got done talking about religion.
West King Street.
Yes.
Yep. Right down the street from my house.
I mean, this is a small place. I mean, murder isn't fit anywhere, but for this to be such a small place and people, all of us are connected one way or another. Like, what do you think is the cause of this, and what you think are some small things that we can do to eradicate violence here in York?
I like that. And there were two questions you had there. What can we do? I tell you one thing that we have to grow from, and we have to, I think, as citizens in York City, we have to identify. It's not going to be a lean on me effect. There's not going to be one person that comes in and is a superhero and has all the right answers. And in 2 to 3 days, everybody just puts everything down. That's just not going to happen.
It's unrealistic.
It is. It is. What is causing it? I can tell you when I was growing up, and it was a decision because I had good parents. I didn't make the best choices, and that's why I went into the Air Force. I did 5 years in high school. I did an extra year just because of some of the decisions that I was making, and I think one thing is, definitely men. Men being more involved and men having the courage to be themselves and being able to say, I'm a man. I'm not Iron Man. I'm just a man. And there's a lot of toxic masculinity, and that's all over. But it's definitely here in that ego.
What do you mean by toxic?
Toxic masculinity.
That's a deep phrase there.
It is. It is. Just having that ego and having that pride. Never backing down. And there's a lot of hurt men out here from different things. So when you're hurt, or you're not improving your mental aspect, the first thing you do is it gets physical. And then of course we know that there are guns running rampant. So if you have a lot of men that don't actually want to fight, where do we resort to but guns? And it's almost like a badge of honor now. Another thing, let's be honest, is when we talk about the system, and you have a lot of, you have your RICO acts and things like that. So when there's an investigation going on, there might be this person could be arrested for something, but they're not because they're in this investigation. So we're seeing these kids that could be, stopped early. The intervention could happen earlier. They're out there until they commit a murder or something like that. And then I'll conclude that question with another thing that happens is with the foster care system. You got kids on probation in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. They're already in that system. They're already wearing things. They're already going through the practice. They're already being stripped of really having that feeling of being a honest, innocent human being. So if you're starting at this age, then by the time they hit 16, 17, they're just ruthless and don't have a care in the world.
Right. So you're saying I like the way you linked it. One thing kind of leads to another. You said a toxic mindset, a lot of hurt and damaged men. So that's going to lead to a lack of conflict resolution skills.
There you go.
And then you said if they have guns, and how are they going to use use the gun. So I like how you link that together. Do you think it's things in the society. It's kind of perpetuating the violence, like things they see on TV, movies, things like that. Do you think any of that is perpetuating violence, or do you think that's separate?
No. Nothing is separate in this universe. Everything connects at one point or another. We can. Let's just say that nothing is separate. And I want to say something. There's a meme that I think it's called a meme that goes around, and it says, you got people dying, for sides of town that are owned by the housing authority.
Right.
And I was like, wow, it's a good one. But to answer your question, yes, you do see a lot of negative things, in hip hop, rap, but you see it in TV. It's also advertised. Menthols are advertised a lot more in the city. And if you're seeing that on a daily basis, and these are the people that you want to become, then of course you're going to act that out. More than anything else. So
yes. The reason I asked that is I did a podcast last night. Since I work in a mental health field with therapy and counseling, particularly with youth, I've been doing it for years. I did a podcast last night, and I talked about how this video game Fortnite, the WHO, who is the World Health Organization, they are now labeling Fortnite and video games as a mental health disorder. That's what they have came out with recently, and they said at the forefront of it is this game Fortnite, and that kind of got some people stirred up on the podcast I did last night. And going back to the terror attack in New Zealand, the way he carried it out, media reports are saying he got that from Fortnite.
Oh wow!
I didn't even really know what the video game was because I don't play video games.
I don't either.
My boys have it. I didn't even know what it was, but I've kind of, we've been working with them on that. They don't have any bad behaviors or anything like that, but I didn't even know what it was. And one of the most popular modes in the Fortnite is called Fortnite Battle Royal, where it's 100 people online playing at one time, and the object of the game is to fight to the death to only one person is standing. And I had some statistics, like I don't just pull stuff out the air. I always have my references. So they're saying that this is a mental health disorder because you have children starting out playing it 1 to 2 hours, and then it goes 5, 6, 7 hours. And after I did the podcast, I had a brother inbox me saying that he has a stepson who plays it up to 16 to 20 hours on the weekend and 5 to 6 hours during the week after school. Wow. So if you get out of school 4 or 5 o'clock, come home, eat, I imagine, and you're on the game 5, 6 hours. And some of my boys said they have friends that play it to wee hours of the morning, 1, 2 in the morning. If you mind if I give some statistics? No. So, like I said, a couple people got a little, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But this is undeniable information. So this Fortnite game, this violent game, was released in 2017 by Epic Games, this system called Epic Games. Again, the most popular mode is called Fortnite Battle Royal, where 100 players battle to the death. And the mission is to kill everyone in sight till only one is standing. It's very gruesome. Forbes magazine said Fortnite brought in $126 million in the month of February of 2018. In March of 2018, they brought in $223 million. In April of 2018, they brought in $296 million. And who is the World Health Organization, said they classify it as a mental disorder of unusual gaming pattern of behavior. Teens and youth, whoever play it, want to play it over any other activity, including family, their own activities outside, and it escalates. The time escalates despite negative consequences. So the extended play actually affects their brain development, and it is equivalent to becoming a drug addict. Because becoming my master's is in substance abuse counseling. We all have what we call a pleasure sensor in the brain. And at first, when people start taking drugs, you are a drug user. But then when the drugs start hitting the pleasure sensor of your brain, that what makes you a drug addict, especially with crack cocaine, because you have that sensor in your brain called dopamine. And when you no, not you, but if someone uses it, hopefully not, it hits that pleasure sensor in your brain called dopamine, and it gives you a high, what they say is like even better than sex. This is our power. We say we just talk it straight. But the problem is you will never get that high again. So that's why those who are addicted to crack cocaine, they keep chasing it. And if you remember the movie New Jack City with Pookie, he said, what did he say? He said, I gotta have it. I gotta have it. So that pleasure sensor of the brain, they said the same effect happens with playing these video games, because now they gotta have it. So now they in school, and I've actually gotten some clients, their main reason for their parents hiring me was to work with their child because they're addicted to Fortnite. The children has literally admitted this to me, saying they are addicted to the game. They're up all night when they're in school. That's all they think about, and that's all they want to do. They don't want to go outside. They don't want to take a shower. They just want to play the game. So this is real.
I can see that. I can see it, because I don't play too many games. I used to, when I was little. Play with my brothers and stuff like that, pitch up. But I don't know, somewhere along the lines, I just was like, it just wasn't appeasing to me. I mean, I'll still play here and there. But, I have friends that, when they get off of work, that's the first thing they do is they hit the game, and then weekends, it's straight to the game. So there are people that are playing it.
So imagine youth.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, do you have any children?
Yes, I have a daughter. She's 6.
Okay. Wouldn't you say the solution to that is just parents raising their children? Because even before Fortnite, even though the World Health Organization, they said Fortnite is at the forefront of what they call now a gaming mental disorder. But video games was raising children before Fortnite.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely true.
Wouldn't the solution be parents stop letting video games and TV raise their children and them raise their children?
I agree.
I agree. Pretty simple. You don't need no medicine or counseling for that.
For that one. Yeah. But it's an easy alternative, especially, when you're working. You got parents that are working 2-3 jobs. That's
a little different.
Go from this job to that job, and, you got kid raising herself. What are you going to do but play that game?
Right.
So, I mean, it's a lot that is involved. But sometimes it is just you just need to get off that game, and I had parents that are like, all right, you got 2-3 hours, you better go outside and get away from me, don't come back in the house.
When it's nice out, like my boys don't even hardly play it anymore, because now with the time springing forward, they come home, their homework is straight. They go outside and run like we used to do back in the day. We weren't sitting on no video games all day, and by the time they come in, it's time to eat and take a shower and hit the sack. So they're not really on it, like that. It's rules, it's parameters, it isn't just do, what you want. But that's the reality, either because parents are working or they just, want the game to, raise the, children, so they don't got to do it. Not everyone, but something isn't right. Yeah. Something isn't right here. And for a child to be on a game 16 hours, when that brother inboxed that to me, I was blown away. I said 16 hours on a video game, no wonder. So all that lights, all that action on there, and then you go in the classroom and they talking about Foursquare, and ain't no one worried about that. We just have to do our job. And see, someone sent Mr. Way said Fortnite has 125 levels. Each level costs $25.
That is true.
It will cost you $3,000 to win this game. It's sold on levels. Well, I didn't know that. I thank you for that, Mr. Way.
I did know that. So my little brother, he plays. I guess he's really good. But Montrell Morgan, he goes to East Stroudsburg. He's a junior. He's going to school for he started off astronautical engineering. I think he shifted a little bit more to computer science. But I mean, he and he was saying you got to pretty much purchase everything. I don't know if that's 100% true, Mr. Wade. But I mean, if you want a dance or something like that, certain things you got to buy. People are spending a lot of money on that game, and I'm like, man,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, that explains the statistics I gave a couple minutes ago of the money that they were pouring in last year, just in a month. 126 million in February, 223 million in March, and 296 million in April.
You're 100% right.
That's easy. If they, that I just remember ColecoVision and Donkey Kong, and Pac-Man and
stuff like that.
That's the only shooting stuff I remember back in the day. We were just shooting asteroids out in outer space now. So it has to be some kind of connection with that and the violence and the lack of empathy in the street. It's like we are desensitized to violence and murder, which is connected to the bullying in school too. It's just no empathy, no compassion. Was things like that when you were in school? Did you see that? Did that total human disconnect or?
No. One, I try not to watch too much news or too many negative things. World Star Hip Hop.
It's depressing.
I can't stomach watching somebody get, knocked out or beat the way. When you see that, I just can't watch it. In school, you had your fights. You had your bad moments. You had the things that happened. But you never seen somebody get beat to a pulp, or it was, you never seen stuff like that. Now you're seeing it all over the place.
Gang fights. I did a talk on that too. About this World Star Hip Hop. I was like, people, please stop posting fighting videos on Facebook. You got, like you said, Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Boyce Watkins. We have so many scholars. Not that we depend on YouTube to change our community, but if you're going to post something that's positive, constructive and positive. That World Star Hip Hop and all these fighting
that's a matrix
videos, but that goes back to the question that I asked you earlier. How come we have all this technology, but yet it seems like a lot of our youth are in the dark? Like if I was to go to the average youth and say, give me one sentence on who Marcus Garvey is, man, it would be like crickets. And I remember when I was in North Carolina, the school that I was at, I used to do counseling at a school in Durham, North Carolina, and they had some kind of contract with teachers from Jamaica. They would come to Durham, North Carolina to get their teaching credentials or something, and it was this one sister, beautiful sister, she was from Jamaica, and the children was misbehaving in there, and if I had to come to the class, it wasn't because you were doing good, it was because something wasn't right.
Gotcha.
So I went there, and she said, Brother Sharif, I just don't understand these children here. And I said, well, sis, it's not the same as Jamaica. So even though we look the same, there's another disconnect. We already talked about the disconnect with us and other cultures and us not having our history. But even those who come from Africa and places like Jamaica, they still don't understand what we go through here. She said, we have a Marcus Garvey civics class in Jamaica. I said, well, that's why your children, you're not used to seeing this kind of behavior. She was talking about the behavior here. She'd never seen anything like it. She said, we have Marcus Garvey civics class. I said, we don't have that. We barely know who Martin Luther King is, more or less Marcus Garvey. So she didn't understand how we don't know about ourselves because she is from Jamaica. That's their country. He's from there, and that's part of their curriculum. But we don't have that here. We don't have that kind of stuff, here. So it is just a huge disconnect, even with Africans who come here, Jamaicans come here. They may look like us, but their journey isn't the same.
It's not the same. And you know what's crazy when you talk about school and the disconnect? So right before this, I was at Leadership York. I'm going through Leadership York. It's a program that is through York College. It's for young people that aspire to be leaders. And we were actually just at York Academy. And this class is very diverse, I can say honestly. So we have, I'm not going to say a name, but we have somebody in there from India. And she's a very nice, very interesting person. She's a banker. And they were talking about the dropout rates. And she's always astounded every time we have the class. And she's like, wait, kids are allowed to drop out of school before 18,
right.
And she was puzzled, And the lady looked. She said, "Yeah." She said, "Is that not, you don't do that in India?" She's like, "No, you gotta finish school. You don't have,
got too much.
You got
of a
to,
choice.
yeah." So,
Yeah, we have a different experience,
and that's our normal here.
Here in America, it's a whole different experience.
And to get back to Fortnite for 2 seconds,
sure,
that made me
okay.
That made me think of something. Soldier Boy. Okay, not the best role model at all, but his business acumen is wonderful. He definitely transformed things. He actually took social media to YouTube. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records. He was the first person to utilize YouTube to stream and to spread his music. He created a video game console, but another thing that he did is he had a dance. He was the first one to really have a dance that was connected and blew up. But he trademarked his dance, right? He patented. I don't know exactly which one it was, but if anybody else did his dance, you would have to pay him or he would shut it down. And Fortnite is making millions, as you just said, off of rappers that created dances. And you got to buy them. So now those rappers are like, oh, well, they stole my dance, but they didn't patent it. They didn't go through the legalities to actually lock it down. And, we got to learn those things.
Business aspect of things.
Yeah, the business in the communities as well. So, yeah. I actually am starting, I don't know whether I want to call it a brand or a movement, but Hanif Isaac, he's a millennial. He's a little older than me, probably about 30. I think he turns 30 in like 2 days. He did my logo. I'll come out with it in a little bit, but it's called Mogul Minded Millennials, right? Mogul Minded Millennials.
MMM. Okay. All right. We'll be looking out for that.
Oh yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So we got about 4 minutes. 4 minutes left. In the show, is any programs coming up here in York that you want to let people know about, especially if it's revolved around youth or just the community? Do you know of any that we should be looking out for? I know we have Juneteenth with Sister Carla Christopher at her church on I think it's Union Lutheran Church. So we'll be commemorating Juneteenth, and that'll be in memory of Tony Orr Jr. or Anthony Orr Jr., something that we came up with to remember him as a good Samaritan.
Yes,
so we'll be doing that. We'll be Carla Christopher has been putting that out there on Facebook, so that'll be Juneteenth. I believe that'll be June 22nd, and we'll be honoring Anthony Orr Jr. And his father and his mother. We want to get them involved because they gave us permission to do that.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing. That is a blessing, and rest in peace.
Yes.
To Mr. Orr, and condolences to the Orr family. And they're huge in York City. Mr. Orr used to cut my hair when I was probably 5, 6 years old.
Still going strong downtown.
Still going strong. And that was back in the day. That was when you 6, 7, you get your hair cut early in the morning. But that's what he did. He might stop, eat his food, come back and get you. But I mean, everybody was respectful. I think barbering now is more of a fad. It's more of a fad. It's real social media like. That barbershop talk back in the days, that used to be something.
I think it's still there, but it is different. The barbershop is different. Back in the day with Mr. Bunky, Mr. Leon, Marty, they would be in the shop 6 a.m., 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Now you can't catch a barber that early, but you may drive in town 8, 9 o'clock at night and the barbershop is still open. I'm like, it was the reverse.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Things, things have changed, but hopefully things change for the better. My wife said there are several people of color running for York City Council and York School Board. Yes, we discussed that a little earlier. So we're winding up here. We didn't have anyone call in, but brother, you gave us a wealth of information. This will be on replay on the Hour of Power and on my channel, and I'm gonna put it on my YouTube channel. And I'm gonna send that link to you so you can send it out to many people as possible. So this is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Tune in next week. Thank you.
Good. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for extending the invite.
Especially on